Ever wanted to play a game that lets you beat up the physical personification of your astrological sign? If the answer is yes, well, that's a very specific thing to want in a video game, but as it turns out, I have just the one for you. All you have to do is play Astral Ascent, which is exactly what I did recently, so here I am telling you exactly what I think about it. Now, I'm not sure what kind of game you expected this to be, but it's actually primarily a 2D roguelite, with a lot of combat and a bit of platforming on the side. As such, you'll begin in the hub area with plenty of NPCs, some of which you can buy permanent upgrades from. Once you're done preparing, you can finally head out onto the field to begin your run, which will inevitably end in either success or failure, before bringing you back to the hub world so you can power up some more and do it all over again. And eventually, after many runs worth of powering up, you'll finally be able to beat the big bad guy, and then you'll get your ending. Pretty straightforward stuff, to be fair, but if you like roguelites or roguelikes, then you should be able to get into this just fine. And while the structure is pretty simple, the gameplay was plenty interesting enough to keep me hooked for the amount of runs needed to see the ending, and even then some. To explain that, however, requires that I go in more detail about what each run is like, so shall we? Expectedly, starting out, you're as naked as can be, but eventually, throughout your run, you'll pick up items and passive upgrades that will make you stronger. Could be these rocks that slightly improve your stats, it could be a brand new spell or a gambit that allows you to put a special effect on said spell, or maybe even these auras that give you all kinds of crazy buffs. Use all of these things in conjunction with one another to turn yourself from a pathetic little wimp into a god-slaying machine of mass destruction. There are three types of currencies that you can acquire and spend within the run itself, those being quartz, stars, and keys, each of which are obtained and spent in different ways. Stars are earned upon entering a new room, with the amount of stars gained being dependent on how many stars worth of difficulty that room has, and keys and quartz can both be obtained as end-of-room rewards or even in chests sometimes. Keys are mostly used to open these things for rewards, quartz can be used to buy things from merchants, and stars are mainly used to fuel your alcoholism. There are 4 different biomes, you could say, each with their own environmental hazards and enemies to tackle. Each biome has a total of 12 rooms that you'll have to go through before you can reach the next biome. There's a handful of different room types, from small exploration segments to combat scenarios, to maybe even a mini-boss fight or just a break room. The second to last room is always going to be Andromeda's bar, where you can relax and spend your currencies on upgrades to prepare yourself for the final room, which is going to be the boss fight. Each biome has its set of 3 zodiacs, which serves as the boss fight, with one of them being chosen at random to fight you in the final room of that biome. And finally, once you've managed to clear all 4 biomes, you can head into the final one, which is really just a break room before you get to fight the final boss, the Master, or Ophiuchus as he's called. So you go ahead and kick his ass, but he decides that you're not good enough, and then he just traps you and kills you in a cutscene before sending you back to the garden. And it's here that you'll get introduced to a new mechanic, that being the Path of Destiny. The Path of Destiny will allow you to increase your destiny level, which will include new mechanics as well as increase enemy stats to up the challenge, but will also give you greater rewards as a result. If you want to truly beat the Master and bank yourself an ending, you'll have to defeat him on at least Destiny level 6, though once you do that for the first time, you'll unlock a buffet of new options that you can turn on and off at your leisure to keep increasing the difficulty if you want to continue playing. Playing on Destiny levels will allow you to gain Destiny fragments by defeating Zodiacs, which you can use at the garden to unlock even more permanent upgrades. There are also a total of 4 different playable characters, 2 of which are unlocked basically right from the very start, with 2 more being unlocked as you keep playing the game. They each have their own regular attacks, starting spells, and signature spells, and they also have their own unique spells that only they can find during the run. They also have their own unique provinces, which are these buffs that you can slap on your regular attacks as well as your signature spell at the start of every biome. They can also each unlock 2 additional weapons by clearing Destiny level 2 and 4s respectively, as well as 3 passives for each of those weapons that can be unlocked by clearing certain conditions as long as you're using said weapon during your run. And so that's basically it. You pick a character, you head into a run, and from that point onwards it's all up to you to decide on how you want to power up and which rooms you want to tackle in order to try and make it to the end. There are plenty of different types of rooms, as well as even some random events that can occasionally occur throughout the run, which means that you'll have to stay on your toes and try to make the best out of everything that comes your way if you are to succeed. And maybe as you keep trying over and over again, you'll gradually start to piece together the game's story. So basically there's this guy called the Master who sent armies of monsters across different planets in order to conquer them. During these wars, the Master himself would kidnap these planets' best warriors. He would then place them in astral prisons, which apparently he used as museums for the glory of his war and whatnot, and then he'd force the planet to choose between obedience or death. These prisons are guarded by 12 super powerful individuals called the Zodiacs. And so the events of the game start with this girl named Isla who decides to infiltrate the central prison known as the Garden in order to go ahead and kill the Master. See, the Garden is actually a prison, and so Isla decides to work together with other prisoners in order to go ahead and fulfill a mission, basically. And that's about all you'll get told early on, because the rest of the story is all told through optional reading materials and character interactions. For instance, during a run, you'll sometimes come across these humanoid phantom-shaped kind of things, and when you pick them up, you'll earn a story fragment that you can see by going over to Papa Yali over here, who's this big cat-looking thing. These story fragments will reveal bits and pieces of certain characters' backstories. They could be the main characters, the NPCs, or even the Zodiacs, and there's also some rewards for collecting them, so even if you don't feel like reading them, there's no reason to pass them up. Reaching a Zodiac, or the final boss, will have a small interaction between them and your player character, which will occasionally shed light on either or both of the characters. If you're able to clear a Zodiac Summon challenge and get them to accompany you during the rest of your run, you'll occasionally also have some interactions between them and their fellow Zodiacs, or the Master whenever you reach them. And some of the NPCs in the garden will occasionally have something to talk to you about, either because of the character you currently have selected, or maybe they just want to talk about one of the Zodiacs that you won or lost against. And sometimes sitting on a bench will also occasionally cause your character to have a monologue and reminisce on the good old times, but this doesn't happen very often. Each of the 4 player characters have their own ending, which you can see by defeating the Master at Destiny level 6 or higher, and you can also see one ending for each of the 12 Zodiacs, as long as you can do the same while they're accompanying you throughout your run. So if you're interested in learning more about the story, the lore, or just the characters, then this is how you do it, but again, it's all optional. I personally don't mind the story being completely optional, but I'm pointing it out here so that you know that you have to put in the effort for it. Though I suppose this could lead to the story feeling a bit weird, because you'll constantly be finding out things about one character and then another and then this event and then another event. I also do rather enjoy the pixel art aesthetic this game has going for it. Although the characters and enemy sprites are rather basic, I actually found the environments to be significantly more complex and, quite frankly, rather interesting and impressive. Each of the 4 biomes are also rather distinct and diverse in enemies and environmental design as well. And although cutscenes are more complex and detailed, they still keep the same pixel art aesthetic, which I think helps the whole thing stay consistent. The animations are pretty nice too, and all of the different effects for particles and attacks and whatnot are also really nice. A lot of attacks in the game also cause these red zones that will show you exactly where you need to not be, and I think that's really neat. If I had one thing I wanted to complain about, however, is that when things get crazy, especially in fight rooms with a lot of enemies, it can get pretty cluttered on a visual level. And when that happens, it can become darn near impossible to actually figure out what the hell is going on. This is especially problematic if you're given a challenge to beat the room without getting hit, because then it becomes a total clusterfuck, and if you fail, then you get nothing at all. Sound-wise, I think it's actually pretty good, including the music. It's not my favorite soundtrack of all time, and I wouldn't get up to dance on it or anything, but I still like it. There's a good variety of track, and they tend to match the situation pretty well, at least for me, but it's also really easy for the music to get drawn out by all the action and the sound effects going on. Sound effects are all nice and clean too, and the voice acting is pretty damn good as well. I'd like to say more about the sound in general, but I'm kind of dumb and I don't really know anything about it, so I'll just leave it at I think it's good and I do like it. Overall, I actually quite enjoy this game. It's fast-paced and action-packed, just how I like them. Starting a run as just some dude and then finishing up as a god is always real satisfying to pull off. There's plenty of variety in every run, it's got some really unique mechanics, and I think the bosses and enemies are really well designed overall. There's plenty of content to uncover and plenty of Destiny levels to tackle if you want to keep playing even after defeating the final boss. It's just a really good roguelite, what can I say, and I definitely see myself continuing to play it for some time in order to keep seeing more of it. If you're a fan of roguelites/roguelikes, I think you really should give this one a try, because I don't think it'll disappoint you in the slightest. Hey there, thanks for watching yet another terrible video, even though I know no one is making it to this point. If you enjoyed it, you can let me know by doing all of the YouTube things, and if you didn't enjoy it, well, you can let me know by doing the other YouTube things. Whether you actually enjoyed it or not, I want to thank you for watching anyways, and I wish you a good day, or night, whichever one it happens to be for you. And as for me, I think I'm going to go ahead and make some more videos, because I want to keep pretending that I actually have something going on here, so I think I'll be leaving now.